Hi, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our panel event on college affordability. We will start at 6:05. It is 6:05. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our hashtag CUNY No Hoops event. Today, we will be discussing the obstacles that hinder college success. We will hear about the many challenges that college students face and address how we can collectively overcome these challenges to build an equitable higher education system. Before we get started, I want to tell you about Young Invisibles. Young Invisibles is a nonprofit organization that aims to uplift and elevate young people's voices, to advocate for economic opportunity in our generation. Here in New York City, our work focuses on higher education. Our team includes Anthony Van Call, who's a senior at attending Queens College, Carrie Lang, who is a junior attending Hunter College, Mia Acevedo, who is a sophomore attending Gutman Community College, and Iridatu Suleiman, who is a junior at Lehman College. Our purpose today is to present a general outlook on the challenges and history of transfer student experience, along with our mission to support this movement. We will also be discussing with two panelists who are students and can give insight to this discussion based on their experience or those around them. We are committed to voicing challenges that transfer students face, such as credit evaluation lack of access. For example, transfer students having no particular program allocated to their success, and their lack of access to education and So before we begin, I would like to switch to there is a link. A link will be dropped. Excuse me. So once you click on that link, it will take you to a Jamboard, which basically on the left side there's a note that says sticky note. Excuse me. Our icebreaker question is: what do you think is the biggest challenge that college transfer students face? Is it shortage of advisors, lack of proper academic advice, lack of services and programs, lack of administrative help? Like, who is my advisor? Limited coursing offerings available, loss of college credits, heavy non tuition costs not covered by FAFSA and TAP. So on the Jamboard, you can write whatever answer you think is correct, and after 2 minutes, we're gonna give everyone 2 minutes to type in what answer they think is correct, and we'll go over it after. I see we might be having a little bit of issue using the Jamboard. So on the left side, there are links. On the fourth one, it says sticky note. If you click on that, you can type in your answers, and it'll automatically paste it. Thank you. So 30 more seconds for whoever wants to put in your answers. Okay, so looking over it, I see a lot of people talk about advisors, and I'm one of those people because this is something that I experience and have experienced firsthand. So, in terms of the right answer, every answer on this list is right because these are all experiences that transfer students have gone through, and things that do affect them. So, this answer, I'm not sure if you can see the screen. It says shortage of advisors, but all of those definitely adversely affect transfer students. That is the correct answer. They're all correct answers, but that particular answer is basically what I'm going for. So I will be passing the mic on to my colleague Mia.
Thank you so much for the icebreaker, Iridatu. We will introduce some research on college affordability and transfer students. So, what do you think graduation rates look like? You can drop in the chat what you think this looks like. So I see 50%, I see around 30%, and these are actually pretty accurate. Um, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is a figure of CUNY community colleges graduation rates. Roughly 50% of the incoming first year students graduating from the senior colleges with a bachelor's degree in 6 years. Yet only one Baruch has a 6 year graduation rate above 70%. There is there's clear room for improvement at the institutions such as York College, which is 41%, and Lehman College, which is 50%. Overall, 9 out of 11 CUNY colleges offering bachelor's programs, the 6 year graduation rate is under 60%. A host of factors contribute to the city's troubling college completion rate. To many students entering CUNY campuses are wholly unprepared academically and socially to succeed in college. Many low-income students struggle to navigate the high school to college transition. Yet few students receive adequate advice in either high school or college. Perhaps most important, a host of financial burdens, including living expenses, books, and computers, and even the cost of a Metro card. Regularly, these costs cause students to drop out. Several factors contribute to the city's low graduation rate. Um, this also includes academic readiness, insufficient financial aid, and stretched system of guidance and support. Transfer students often do not register for the appropriate classes needed because of the lack of academic advising. About 30% of surveyed students stated that academic advisors were not beneficial to them. Several students across several major states stated that they were advised to take courses that were not necessary for their academic program, which caused graduation date to be delayed. Advising hours are very limited. CUNY departments do not provide an adequate amount of advisors with ratios of 3 to 2001 students at CUNY's psychology department and 3 to 1,400 at, at Queens Community Computer Center department, Computer Science department. Because of the inadequate advising, transfer students are often left out with no guidance on what classes they should be taking in order to graduate. The ratio between student and advisors are very alarming, as many students have to wait months in advance to get a proper appointment. Lack of course offering available for transfer students. Overall, a third surveyed CUNY students for 5 senior colleges said they were unable to register for a course due to limited number of seats. Half of those students stated that the course was a requirement for their major and therefore unnecessary for graduation. According to 2018 CUNY students experience survey, 42% of students stated wanting more evening courses, 35% wanted more weekend courses, and half sought more online courses. 6 out of 25 departments across CUNY do not offer full course load through evening and weekend classes. Many of the
Thank you so much, Mia. I'm now going to discuss the transfer credit system that puts transfer students at a disadvantage. Many students who transfer to CUNY colleges lose a substantial amount of credits when transferring to a four-year institution because of poor coordination among participating colleges and an inability to effectively communicate the transfer process and policies to students. More than 10% of students who transfer from community colleges to four-year institutions lose a majority of their credits during the switch. In this figure, we see that only 58% of students were able to transfer 90% or more of their credits. This is a problem because more than half the credits transfer students have earned are simply not counted in their current colleges. Additionally, students who transfer from community colleges have credits that carry over to a four-year institution, but they may not fulfill identical credit requirements. Students who started at a community college are 17% less likely to achieve a bachelor's degree than students who start at four-year colleges. These credits may be given as electives, which puts students behind as they have to retake the classes they had taken before at their previous institutions. Not only does this waste a lot of time, but students are repeating courses that they have already taken because of the failed transfer credit system. 38% of first-time students transfer schools within their first 6 years, but as they move, their credits don't always follow. From 2004 to 2009, transfer students on average lose 43% of their credits, which is about a semester's worth of credits. In this figure, we see that transfer rates are correlated to a low-income student struggle. Students attending a community college serving lower socioeconomic communities were less likely to transfer to a four-year institution than students attending a community college serving higher socioeconomic communities, 26.3% and 34.6% respectively. Even after transferring, students from high socioeconomic schools were 9% more likely to complete a bachelor's degree than students who transferred from low socioeconomic schools, 44.7% and 35.8% respectively. This report gives colleges and universities the metrics they need to improve outcomes for students. As is clear from the report, most have a lot of work to do. Another challenge faced by college students are heavy non-tuition costs. Financial burdens make staying in college unsustainable for many students. A significant share of students who drop out of CUNY colleges and community colleges do so because of financial pressures. Covering tuition is not enough to help students stay in college and earn degrees. 71% of students attending CUNY community colleges and 54% enrolled in CUNY senior colleges live in households earning less than $30,000 a year. More than half the community college students have an annual household income of less than $20,000. Many students struggle to afford textbooks and other required supplies, which costs on average $1,364 per year, according to CUNY. Internet service and computers add another burden, one that was especially problematic during the past year when most courses went online and students no longer could access campus computer labs. The most affordable home internet service usually costs $500 to $600 a year, while a basic laptop costs an additional $300. In this table, students who live at home spend approximately $10,000 on costs outside of tuition. Although community college students receive TAP and Pell Grant, TAP's broken rules and restrictions make countless students exhaust their financial aid before they complete their coursework. TAP provides 3 years of funding for students seeking an associate's degree and 4 years for a bachelor's degree, which is much shorter eligibility than federal Pell Grants. At CUNY, only 4 in 10 of 29,000 students enrolled and graduated within 6 years completed within the TAP eligibility period. Some college students leave without a degree after burning through their TAP benefits or taking out loans. Non-tuition financial barriers force most students to work, which impacts performance and jeopardizes students' financial aid. More than 52% of full-time CUNY students work during any given semester, and of these students with jobs, 56% work more than 20 hours per week. Students who work many hours struggle to keep with coursework and potentially fail class because of attendance requirements. If students do not maintain a 2.0 GPA, they lose their financial aid, and without TAP and Pell Grants, many students cannot afford to stay enrolled. Nearly 1/3 of CUNY students are low income, which is why so many CUNY students work alongside with school. The consequences of inadequate advising, limited financial aid, and confusing transfer policies puts not just the transfer students, but lower income students at risk of contributing to the low graduation rates. I will now pass it on to Anthony.
Thank you so much, Carrie. In order to tackle higher education's credit transfer challenge, CUNY institutions must be more flexible with accepting credits earned elsewhere and have more competent administrators who are reviewing the transcripts and not blindly equating them as electives. Invest in more academic advisors and improve advisors' communication among students. Expand financial support for low-income students with focus on overcoming persistent non-tuition financial barriers. Peer mentorship program would consist of 4-year students assisting incoming transfer students who are in the same major to become more acclimated on campus and connect them to resources to help achieve academic success during their first academic semester. Now we'll be moving on to the panel portion of our event. We are so excited to introduce 2 student panelists who will be sharing their stories and experiences with college transfer process. Tonight, we have our first student panelist, Wally Ula. Wally is a senior at City College of New York studying political science. As a transfer student from Bronx Community College, Wally cares deeply about the role of public higher education in transforming people's lives, especially low-income and marginalized New Yorkers, and ensuring that the government and our elected leaders make higher education an important policy priority. Our second student panelist, Faith Oyibola, is a recent graduate from Queens College with a BA in accounting and finance. She was a transfer student from Queensborough Community College, where she works as a student leader with admissions for freshmen and transfer students. So our first question for the evening is for Wally. What type of support did you receive from your previous school when you were transferring to your current one?
Thank you so much for that question, Anthony. During my time at Bronx Community College, I was really able to make the most out of my time, in the Roscoe Brown Student Center, we had a lot of services that were available. The student government office was there, the cafeteria was there, but one place that I would always go to would be the student life office. Any kind of concern that I had, student life, the student life department at BCC did a really good job at, making sure students felt like they had a home. And, I know other students at community colleges that have had the same sort of experience that, they feel generally, not every community college is similar, but, typically, yes, there was student life. I was also able to receive mental health services at Bronx Community College. Mental health services were, obviously free, but there was also no limit to how many appointments you could get, which was an issue that I ran into when I eventually transferred. Even though I'm a person that, does have disabilities, such as Tourette's syndrome, ADHD, as well as, anxiety disorder. I didn't get diagnosed for, ADHD or anxiety until a year later, so I wasn't able to utilize disability services, though if I did get diagnosed earlier, I probably would have been on disability services earlier. But yeah.
Thank you, Wally. Our next question is for Faith. Reflecting back, what types of support did you wish you had that would have made your transfer experience less stressful?
Thank you for the introduction. So what type of support? So transferring from Queensborough to Queens College, I didn't have support at home, and I didn't really, based on the question we had earlier, I was lacking academic advice. I did have academic advisement, but it was just very limited because when I transferred, I finished Queensborough fall 2017, and transferring spring 2018, you're limited with certain classes. So I didn't really go full-time, I went part-time. And my first semester there, it was just I was just guiding myself. I didn't have no advisors. Technically, I had to go based on what the advisor at Queens College gave me. They had certain classes for me to take, but something saying don't take that because it didn't relate to my major. So I only took, I think, 2-3 classes. So literally I was just on my own with no support from home or no support on campus.
Yeah, I definitely feel you. I also am an alumni of Queensborough Community College, and I also attend Queens College. And I know as a transfer student, you're basically starting from, zero.
Yeah.
Your way back up again. And yeah, the process can be brutal
Yeah.
without the proper support. Okay, so our next question is for Wally. How do you think the colleges you attended would have supported you if you had transferred during the pandemic?
They've already treated me terribly. I mean, there's no other plain way to say it. I mean, I feel like there's a sort of collective trauma that we've all experienced after COVID, students, faculty, employees that we're still reckoning with. And, that's also manifested in sort of economic trauma as well. Like CUNY has been further defunded again, which hinders the kind of services and support that it can provide to students. Mental health support was a really big one that I needed during the pandemic because, before the pandemic, I was doing an internship for credit. I was on track to graduate in the fall. I felt like I had a lot of things that were looking up for me at the time until COVID happened. The internship that I was doing became remote. Another internship that I was anticipating to do in person became remote. I took those personally because those were sort of things that I felt like could have really helped me advance to a point in my career that not just a bachelor's could have done so. And also just studying didn't feel the same either. during COVID, the whole Zoom University joke that, a lot of people like making. And, the problem with City College, every college has a different mental health sort of, appointment policy. But I had exhausted my appointment limit during my first semester at City College. The limit is 6 appointments. I exhausted all those my first semester at City College in spring. And I tried really hard to get off campus services, but then I would have to wait, say, like a month to 3 months just to get past, the wait list, which was really annoying. And, if CUNY is going to pride itself in uplifting marginalized and low-income New Yorkers, then, really needs to put its money where its mouth is, stop gutting academic services, stop gutting, mental health services. They need to be hiring more counselors. They need to be really making the services robust enough to a point where students don't even feel more burnout or overwhelmed. I feel like CUNY has, I feel like the universities should be doing a lot better than they are right now.
Thank you so much, Wally, for your response. I definitely agree. Do you think like institutionally there needs to be some type of, I don't know, like as we transition to next semester, like more on person, do you think there needs to be some type of like hub for transfer students?
I definitely believe so. And, I can imagine the process being hard enough for people to navigate, for people that, they might have finished up graduating in a community college. And, CUNY bureaucracy is a mess already, because of COVID. Sorry, can you repeat your question?
No, I'm saying as we transition more in person next semester, do you think there needs to be like a transfer resource hub for students?
I do believe that. And, like a lot of the, recommendations that you guys have, I feel like could really help transfer students, like, the peer mentorship program, pairing up, an experienced four-year college student with, new transfer students, things like that could be great. And, like, I don't want to sound cynical, but, I've seen a lot of, great organizations like, Young Invincibles that work in higher education policy arena that come up with these policy recommendations, but ultimately it's up to university administration and elected leaders to listen to them. We're doing our part, but, it takes 2 to tango. So I'm just waiting on our political leaders to do something and our administration to do something.
Big facts.
And implement those policies.
Yeah, I most definitely agree. So our 4th question is for Faith. What notable changes has the culture and environment had on your academic and social lifestyle while you were a student on campus?
So that's really a great question, because based on my first semester at Queens College, it just started going downhill for me. So like, for example, like back to like the advisor, I didn't get an advisor, I think my 2nd semester or 3rd semester, but that advisor that I had for like my major, she really didn't help, because at the time I met her, I had like 100 and something credits. I wasn't really complaining to her, like I was having issue with the class and they didn't have tutoring. So I asked her, oh, do you have tutoring? Based on me asking if I had tutoring, she's like, oh, looks like you're complaining. Why not switch majors? So from that moment on, I never saw her. I had to like just enroll myself into classes on my own. So from the time I started Queens College up until the time I graduate, I was just on my own. Like I literally had no support or help from any advisors, any teachers on campus. Like I'm not saying the professors were bad, but for some reason, I didn't like their mindset, because if I'm coming in for help, or if I had like a family emergency, they think I'm lying to them or they put me down. So it's like that really, I'm not gonna say I didn't have a good experience at Queens College, but that did not make me enjoy my experience at Queens College. What made me enjoy my experience there a little bit, I did a mentoring program with I forgot the name. It's like FYI, where we help incoming students. So that kind of made me enjoy a little bit of some of the campus, making me know like, okay, not everyone on campus, they're not bad, like they're here to help you, but there are limited sources on campus where a lot of kids need help, and some of the advisors or teachers, they really don't want to help. They're trying to tell me to take random classes based on like, I don't want to go too depth, but it's like, for example, not to make a long story short, I took an accounting class 3 times. The first 2 times, I didn't get any help. Based on my second time taking that class, I had to adjust my schedule where I'm not going to take my major classes in the spring semester, spring or fall. I'm going to take it only in the summertime, because apparently, yes, summer is intense, but if I want to graduate, not on time anymore, I just have to take it in the summer. Summer is not easy, but at least I passed it, and it's shorter than the 4 months. So technically I was just on my own throughout my whole time at Queens College. Sorry if I was rambling. It's just that question kind of hit home for me. So
Yeah, I can definitely relate. I know that statistically speaking, Black students at Queens College make up, the minority, and we perform at a lower rate in comparison to, our peers. But I guess a follow-up question I have for you is that what specific support from advisors and et cetera would you have wanted while you were at Queens?
Well, I don't know, more support. We didn't have any, like if I'm coming in for an advisor for help, for some reason, she didn't really help me. She put me down, not only her, the professors telling me, oh, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I feel like more support, like I had someone in my corner. Because if that's my particular major, for some reason, based on that environment that I got, something was telling me, oh, did I really pick the right major? It's not like I didn't pick the wrong major, but it's like, if everyone in that department is putting me down, it's like, there was just no support. I went to the chairman, he cursed me out to my face, telling me to get out to his office. Like I had surgery and I gave the note to my professor and she said, oh, I hate students making up excuses. I literally had surgery. You had a doctor's note. For some, empathy, if that kind of makes sense. Because for some, I don't know, like the second time I took my advanced accounting, the professor cursed me out to my face telling me, oh, I have a long line of students outside my office. If you don't have specific questions, I can't help you. From that semester on, it's just, for me, it's like, what was it, fall 2019? I knew I was just on my own. I had no help. That forced me to take the spring 2020 semester off just for my mental health, because that whole 2019 was not good for me mentally. If everyone, the professors, the advisors, the chairman, they're all attacking me when I'm all only coming for help, if that kind of makes sense. So if we had more support or empathy, or she said I was lying when I was having major surgery, and I was literally at the hospital when I gave her that note. And coming back from spring break, I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but coming back from spring break, my mom's like, why are you going to school? And I'm like, I have to show her I had surgery. I came to school and she cursed me out to my face, oh, you should have just stayed home because you're falling asleep in my classroom. And it's like, well, I'm literally showing you that I literally had surgery. I don't know how to explain. It's just, I felt attacked that whole year from all the advisors, all the teachers. It's just, I don't know, that really helped. That really triggered my mental health, if that kind of makes sense. I'm sorry if I'm rambling. It's just that question really hit home. And for some reason based on that year, I had to like change how I was going to finish on my own with no support, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. I definitely know what it's like to over explain yourself to someone in a higher position of power and have them really neglect like the circumstances and conditions that you're like working under. As CUNY students, we work full time. We're caregivers. We just have shit going on, for lack of a better word. And professors only seem to only narrow down like
Their favorite students, because I had a professor, she only cared about a particular group of students. Even the other one, it's like we're all here to get an education. Like we want to feel equal. I don't know how to explain. Like she was favoring at least 2 or 3 students and giving them the high grade. Oh, you don't need to take the finals. And it's like, I don't know. I just didn't like that. My experience there is just, I'm not gonna down the school. It's just, I just wish there were more, if they more empathy, not looking at like we're a dollar sign, but like we're actually humans. We have feelings, like we go through stuff, if that makes sense. Not a lot of people know I went through that, if that makes sense. And it's like, I don't want to down the school. It's just, I just had a difficult time at Queens College, if that makes sense.
do you think that Queens College could do more at advertising the resources or the limited resources that they have?
I feel they could do a lot more, especially with the like having like a transfer office or somewhere where student could just vent or talk, because transferring into a school with no, I'm not saying my family didn't support me, but they didn't support me emotionally. So like going into a new campus, new environment, meeting new people, it's like you're on your own. And I had to like face the world like, okay, like I'm here, but people really don't know. Like I had to put on a mask, like, oh, I'm fine. But on the inside, it's like, you really don't know what I'm going through on this inside. Plus I had home issues. So it's like, I had a lot on my plate. And I'm thankfully I did took that semester off, because if I didn't, I would have had like a panic attack. Well, I already did have a panic attack on campus, but I just needed that semester off just for myself because of the traumatic year that I had the previous year. Because it was just like I was on my own and I was being attacked with no help whatsoever from anyone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And Wally, do you think that CCNY could do more at promoting the resources that they have for transfer students?
In my experience, when I first transferred to CCNY, I feel like they did a good enough job at navigating transfer students through the transfer process. I didn't have too much of an issue with it. I also never had to deal with CCNY advisement because I'm in a different academic program. I'm in the CUNY Baccalaureate for Unique and Interdisciplinary Studies program, which basically means I have an individualized major, even though my school is still CCNY. I received my degree from that program and have a different advisor from the CUNY BA program. So I can't really speak on how advisements been like for me at CCNY, but I've heard horror stories, sort of like fates, and what else was I going to say? I mean, yeah, I don't know how the situation has changed since COVID, but I can imagine it's been worse.
Yeah, and then some. So our last question for the evening is for Wally.
How do I think?
So the last question is, how do you think accessibility has differed in terms of getting help from instructors, help desk, and other important services on campus, especially for students with disabilities?
Well, in my situation, it's it's been a little complicated because to get filed with disability services, I need a letter from my psychiatrist, basically stating that I have the conditions that I do have. But the facility that I do receive psychiatric services at, I haven't been able to get an email from my psychiatrist, and there's high turnover at the center that I go to. So I've never been able to like get an email just yet. And at this point, it's been so long and I only have 10 credits that I'm like, I can go without disability services at this point, even though it could have made it so much easier for me if I got filed earlier. It's been, a tough experience for me. aside from the disability aspect of things, like, say if any student needs help, navigating the CUNY bureaucracy, um, like my siblings are trying to start, CUNY next spring as well. And CUNY Central has been awful at getting to students, who need help with the admissions process. Usually I have to wait on the phone at about as long as I have to wait when it comes to getting through Spectrum, about an hour and a half, which is annoying. And, I figure, I'll email them, should leave a paper trail, takes very long for them to get back. Yeah, I mean, again, for me, the whole issue comes back to prioritize funding for CUNY, making sure, like the advocacy is already there, but just making sure we have enough funding to, make sure that our services aren't horrible.
We
Yeah.
have a question in the Q&A chat box for both panelists. They want to know what was the most difficult part of transferring for you?
You want to go or I should go?
You can go first.
Wait, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What was the most difficult part of transferring for you?
The most difficult part of transferring was just not having support or help or guidance. You're gonna have to like figure it out on your own. Like what I like, since I was coming from Queensboro, I already had the foundation of knowing the Blackboard, CUNY First, the email. So since I already know how to do that, I had to just, based on that, I had to just figure out, okay, how do I register for classes? And like a special tool that I use every single day was like degree work. So since I was literally on my own, that was like my friend, because that tells me, since once I was able to declare major, I went straight with that. That's how I was able to enroll into like the classes I need to graduate.
Yeah. The question again was, yeah, the most difficult part for me when it came to transferring, I guess, part of it, yeah, some hard parts that I had to deal with, also had to do with, finding sort of support, but I'd say less support, but more so finding a sense of community. Because, sure, most senior colleges, they might happen to do transfer workshops or transfer orientations, but, trying to make sure that, those students, don't just completely disperse and do their own sort of thing, because that's what might make them feel even more lost. I remember dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome when I got into CCNY. Like when I first applied to CCNY, I applied to no other CUNY school, during the transfer process. I was that dead set on getting into CCNY. And when I, got in, I noticed how much of a shift in workload there was. Not that it wasn't hard for me, I was just burning out a lot. And, like already dealing with anxiety and ADHD, those problems were a little heightened for me. And, as much as mental health services could have also helped, it would have also helped to, find a sort of sense of community. And I was able to find that sense of community within my social science school, because they, similar to Roosevelt House at Hunter College, City College has a Colin Powell School with a lot of fellowships. And I was in a couple of their fellowship programs, and, like I was able to find a sense of community within those students. But like, at CCNY, transfer students are very like sort of dispersed. And I feel like there could have been a better sense of community, on that end among transfer students, not just a one-off orientation thing.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your experiences with us. I will now pass it on to Mia to introduce our resource guide.
Thank you, Anthony, and our panelists. So we have put together a resource guide for students struggling with college affordability. I will show this guide in the next slide and provide a QR code that will allow you to access and share the resource guide. I will also drop a link to the guide in the chat box. As depicted on the slide, there are 3 QR codes provided to make locating and accessing these resources easy. The guide gives a quick overview of each resource and how they may be helpful to you or someone you know struggling with these issues. By scanning the QR code, on the screen, or clicking the link in the chat, you will be able to access and share the guide shown in the previous slide. I encourage you and ask you to share this resource guide with anyone you know is or might be struggling. Thank you, and I will now give the floor to Iridatu.
Thank you, Mia. First and foremost, I would like to start by thanking you all, the speakers, for their contribution. But importantly and significantly, I'd like to express my gratitude to all of the participants. This webinar would not have been as successful as it has been without your contribution, ideas, and conversation. Lastly, I strongly recommend that everyone here signs the Basic Needs Pledge and share it with others to bring more awareness to our cause. There will be a link dropped in the chat for the Basic Needs Pledge. Also, you can share your stories on our Young Invisible's websites. Note that you can also choose to remain anonymous. You can always reach out to us with any questions. There's also a link in the chat. It will be dropped in the chat to where you can share your stories. And on that note, I wish everyone good luck in their finals and a happy holiday. If there's anything else anyone wants to talk about or bring our attention to, you can drop it in the chat or unmute your mic. If not, I wish everyone good luck in their finals and a happy holiday. Stay safe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye, everyone.